Okay, I'm gonna call our September 12th Village of Waunakee Plan Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Chris Zellner.
Here.
Gary Hersberg. Joe Zitzelberger.
Here.
Brian Wallace.
Here.
Chris Thomas.
Here.
Brian Malish. Kevin Phelps.
Okay, first item we have is minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Any other comments? Call the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next we have our public comment period. Do we have anybody who's submitted anything for public comment that would like to speak? Anybody would like to speak? Attorneys are talking to each other, so that works too. All good, so we'll move on from public comments. Public hearings, first one we have tonight is public hearing discussion action on a request for conditional use permit by GSS on behalf of US Cellular to construct a new mobile structure, cell tower and facilities at 1100 Frank H. Street. This is an item that is final action by the Plan Commission. Tim?
Thank you, Chair Zellner. Give a brief overview of this. This is a request for a cell tower, to place a cell tower. Hey, good evening. On the south side of property located at 1100 Frank H. as shown on the screen. The tower itself and equipment located again the south side of the parking lot. Tower will be approximately 100 feet in height. There'll be another short extension at the top to make the total height 104 feet. The lands will be leased by the applicant. The general grading and site plan is shown on the screen with the ground equipment in relationship to the tower. I think I have maybe one more slide. Yeah, this is just a slide of the tower. Facilities would be accessed from Frank H. Street via 30-foot wide utility and access easement across the existing parking lot and circulation area. Staff is recommending approval of the attached site plan, and there's a draft CUP document that's been reviewed by the village attorney. We are recommending approval of that and available for questions.
Okay, since it's a public hearing, I will open our public hearing for anybody that would like to speak. So if you can just say your name.
Sure. My name is Mike Heisinger. I'm here with Sean Hempstead representing GSS. Our address is 3311 109th Street in Urbandale, Iowa. We're here representing the interests of US Cellular. And as Tim pointed out, we have submitted a proposal for a 100-foot tall monopole type tower at 1100 Frank H. Street. We have gone through, utilized the village ordinance language as well as the application for the Plan Commission agenda in order to just make sure that everything that we have proposed is in line with the regulations put forth therein. And basically, I'm just here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. We could do that after the public hearing, right? Yep. So after the public hearing, if we have questions for you, we'd ask at that time.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I'm stretching because we have another commission member that's walking in. He didn't figure that one out. There he is. Gary, we are on the first public hearing item, so you know. Certainly. No, it's okay, just letting you know where we're at. Okay, anybody else? Okay, then I'm gonna close our public hearing. I'll just open it up to the Plan Commission members if you have questions or comments. I'm always gonna start with Brian Wallace.
If I'm looking at this right, the easement area or the location falls within the existing property, right? There's no extra.
Correct.
And we see with the 10-foot easement here for the utilities, they've shifted their access, but their access will be on the existing parking lot. And didn't we just have one about a year or so ago that we approved?
Division Street, yes.
Same.
It's very, very similar, except this one is about 50 feet shorter than that one.
Than that one was, okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay. Then I'm gonna go to the other side, Brian Malish.
Do not have any questions. Sorry.
I'll wait on you since you were last in.
My question was answered. I was gonna ask the same thing about last year's approval, and if we approve that one for 150 feet, I don't have any questions on this one.
Joe?
Don't have any concerns. I'm curious, just for height reference, do we know what the height of the water tower is that's over in that vicinity?
Not offhand. I think Tim Herletzka from Waunakee Utilities said that he believed that the heights would be similar
Okay,
from
that's
grade.
kind of what I was thinking. Okay, that's all.
Gary?
No, no questions.
All right, I have none either, so I'm gonna actually make the motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we have our next public hearing and discussion action on general development plan amendment, specific implementation plan and conditional use permit. Kyron Tierney Properties LLC, The Tasting Room, 1330 Water Wheel Drive. Item for recommendation to JPC and Village Board. So before we start, I have affiliation with The Tasting Room through my employer. So I am going to recuse myself out of this one, and we will designate. Can I designate, or do we need to have somebody else designate?
I would have somebody else designate.
So we need somebody else to designate who's gonna run the meeting.
make a motion to Joe.
So first one to
beat me
speak
to it,
usually
Jerry.
wins. So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, sorry, Joe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so you have it, Joe. Brian, do I need to leave, or can I stay
Oh,
here?
you can stay.
Okay.
All right. Haven't really been down the public hearing road before, so I think we take,
Staff report first,
and then we open the public hearing?
Did,
Okay.
did you read the introductory paragraph already?
Oh, I have not.
Yeah.
So this is a public hearing and discussion, action on a general development plan amendment, specific implementation plan and conditional use permit, or is it Chiron? Chiron Tierney Properties LLC, The Tasting Room, 1330 Water Wheel Drive. Item for recommendation to the Joint Planning Committee or Commission and Village Board.
Okay. Again, as you pointed out, Joe, there are 3 requests associated with this. However, this afternoon, the applicant asked that the GDP amendment be removed. So that's not part of the request before you this evening. In addition, staff had the opportunity to look further into the GDP for Kilkenny, and it turns out that an outdoor seating area is actually a permitted use within that GDP. So the CUP is not needed as well. So this is really just an SIP for you, but it wraps in, it still nonetheless wraps in the outdoor seating area. So, yeah, the applicant is requesting approval of a development of building and grounds for a licensed cigar bar on the south side of Water Wheel. Site plan is shown on the screen. The building is approximately, I want to say, help me with the square footage of that. 8 or 6,000 square feet?
I believe it's closer to 6.
Approximately 6,000 square feet. On the south side, so what's shown on the screen, there are actually 3 parking fields associated with this. The parking field immediately south of this is the building, the white block. This parking field and then this parking field and associated drive aisle would be added. There is a southerly parking field that's also located on the lot that's in existence, that's used by Bucket Honeys currently. So that would be a sort of a shared use between the two. However, there's a significant portion or apportionment of parking for this use. Let's see. This just shows some of the utilities. There would be a public water main associated with this that wraps around and loops through the existing infrastructure. As such, part of this request would involve approval of a public improvements agreement that would be worked out with the applicant and then go to the village board for approval. The specific building is a very unique building which would add a lot of character to this gateway entrance into the village. It's consistent with the GDP, which calls out for sort of rural and agrarian type architecture. So some of the themes included are tobacco barn as well as a whiskey shed, and so the building itself has been modeled after those particular uses. Here's a rendering that shows what the building would look like. The outdoor seating area kind of on the easterly and south portion relative to the building placement. The exterior seating area would be framed nicely with masonry and stone wall, as would the exterior buildings be made of masonry and other durable materials. The building height itself, the peak, I believe, is about 25, 26 feet to the peak of that chimney element. The building, I think, is about, the peak of the roof is about 23 feet, and which is consistent with parameters within the Kilkenny GDP. Here's another rendition of what the interior seating area, or I'm sorry, the exterior seating area would look like. And then I think there's another view here. So, staff is recommending approval of the request, and again, just a reminder that there will be no GDP amendment, which means that that Outlot 16 could at some point in the future be used for public connectivity. And I believe that's it. And again, since this was originally noticed as a public hearing, you may wish to hold the public hearing. However, because of the withdrawal of the GDP and the CUP actually being the CUP use being a permitted use, it's not a requirement. It's up to you.
Okay.
So again, staff is recommending approval as noted on the staff summary sheet and available for questions.
All right, so in light of the fact that it was noticed as a public hearing, I think we'll continue forward with that. So I will open the public hearing. Is there any comments? Forms?
Nothing turned in.
Nothing? Okay. In that case, I think we can close the public hearing.
Is it, unless, does anyone have any, doesn't look, yep, go.
We have people here that can talk about the
We're here for
project, but
questions.
they can
Sure.
do it under the SIP if
Okay.
Okay.
Easy enough. We'll start down here with Brian. Any questions, thoughts?
No, well, I did, but they were on the GDP side of it, so torpedoed. And that sounds good, so, no. Sorry.
Okay. We'll just keep moving. Chris?
No initial questions. I mean, I like the layout. I like how it looks. It is unique. It still looks really nice. So yeah, no initial questions right now.
All right. Gary?
No real questions. I've been to their other location in Monona, and it's, I mean, very professionally run. It's, a great facility, and I think it'd be kind of a neat addition to the community.
And Brian?
Outlot 16 was the dedicated, if, correct, I might phrase that wrong, but the dedicated spot for future roadway or
So
street?
it has not been dedicated at this point. It's privately owned. However, the way the GDP is written, it could be in the future.
Okay, and then how does that, again, we're off in the future, but how does that impact? Because right now it's going to be used as part of a parking location?
Well, it's here, let me back up on the slide. So on the site plan, what is shown as this entry drive with some parking along the sides, essentially that would probably be extended southward at some point in the future, and could be dedicated at some point in the future. So right now, the GDP calls out for this being allowed to be parking and a drive to the access.
Okay, so as part of the development further down to on Waterwheel has parking locations will be similar to that as we come in. So then you can just extend that as needed. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay.
In the future, at the pleasure of the board.
Sure. All right, that's all I have.
Awesome. Quick and painless. So I guess given that,
So just one comment, so within the staff recommendation, there is a motion regarding the amendment to the GDP. That's not necessary, so just in terms of the motion, it would be the latter part regarding the SIP.
Yeah, so the second paragraph plus the numbered paragraphs.
okay, that was going to be the one clarification I had there. So the numbered pieces are sort of CUP.
Well, the conditions of SIP approval,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, a development, or I'm sorry, a public improvements agreement will be needed to accommodate or to address the public improvements. Some of the other conditions here would be conditions of SIP approval, but they're similar to other outdoor seating areas, so in terms of consistency, we thought those would be applicable.
Well, then, if there's not any other questions, I will look for a motion.
And you don't have to read all of it.
Can I
You
make
can
a
basically-
motion as written?
Motion,
And just let that, okay.
motion to recommend the Joint Plan Commission approve the SIP with the remainder of the motion. I think it would be satisfactory.
So moved then, yes, thanks.
A second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And,
Yes, sir.
yep. I guess with that, we'll hand it back over to Chair Zillmer.
All right, thank you. First item under business items. Discuss and take action on a change of use request, DHS 75 licensed medical facility, Luxcom Hotels LLC, 904 East Main Street. This is also an item for final action by Plan Commission. Tim?
So this is a change in use. The applicant is requesting a change in use from what is, or has been currently a hotel use to a in and outpatient clinic under DHS 75. So the reason this is here before you is because of the change in use triggers that site plan review. Staff has reviewed the details associated with the request and is recommending approval. It meets parking. Now, there is one item that, and the applicant should be aware of this, and we made them aware of this, in terms of the change in use is likely to trigger some degree of change under what the relevant commercial code. So prior to occupancy, the building will have to be modified such that it conforms to that commercial code. So with that, staff is recommending approval.
Okay. Plan Commissioners, questions? Gary?
No, not at this time, no.
Joe?
I think it's probably for a later date, but I'm curious about the pool. Is that something that the intent is to continue to have functional with this? Or is that, I don't know what would happen with that, or if that's even really pertinent to this particular discussion?
I think that they could theoretically choose to utilize it as part of the services that they're gonna provide there, depending on how they wanna run their operations, but I think that that probably falls more in the line of what the building inspector and the building code requirements are gonna get into.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, like you said, kind of outside the scope of what
Yep.
we're working on.
That's fine. The only other, I'll say the other question that I've got is in regards to room tax, and I assume that no longer applies with the new use.
That would be correct, that would be correct. Yep, the change away from a hotel use, obviously, hotel tax would not be, or room tax rather, would not be applicable.
Okay.
And so the village would not be collecting any.
Okay.
Well, has it been used as a hotel recently?
No.
So what has been the use?
What
was
would we
it-
describe that as?
I would say, I mean, general services that ultimately related to the impact of the COVID virus. I know that they had made a presentation before the village board, and there was some discussion about that, but they would be, so it was a hotel, now it's that use, they're transitioning.
So they were here, or came in front of the village about the change in use?
It did not.
Well, I mean, there wasn't like an application to change it, but there was a discussion as to what was happening there before the village board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was pre my time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is Luxem Hotels gonna remain the owner of this?
Our understanding, yes, the operator will be another entity that will operate the clinic.
Okay, and is there any building structure improvements itself? Or is it just remodeling the existing or using the existing?
Not anything I'm aware of to the exterior, but to the interior most likely, and we've already made the applicant aware of that and given them the contact information for our building inspection agency.
Okay.
Okay.
I do, if it's okay, I do have one thing I noticed, and this was, I think, on Friday. There is a large storage, I'll say shed. It's not really a shed. It's like one of those portable, almost looks like a rail car. Generally, those aren't permitted in that commercial district, so I may suggest a request that that be cleaned up prior to occupancy as an additional condition.
And there's no change in our signage rules if it goes commercial?
No, well, no, we can't regulate signs based on content, so whatever sign plan that they'll forward, we'll get something, and it'll have to comply with the requirements for commercial districts.
Chris?
No questions. I like that, this will increase access to this type of care, so I'm in favor.
Brian?
Nope, no questions. Very straightforward.
I don't have any other questions as well. So, look for a motion.
I'll move to approve the Luxem Hotels, Inc. site plan, subject to all outstanding issues being addressed to the satisfaction of the Community Development Director and Village Engineer.
Motion by Joe Zitzelberger,
Second.
second by Chris Thomas. Any other comments? Call the question, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we have discuss and take action on site plan for parking lot expansion, First Choice Drywall, 302 Moravian Valley Road. Also an item for final action by Plan Commission.
Yeah, this is a fairly small request. First Choice Drywall is looking to expand their parking on their facility. Their new area, let me zoom out on this a little bit. Well, the new parking lot area is on the west side of their current parking lot. Several, I think it's like about 13 stalls would be added. In addition, as noted in the staff report, there is a small portion of the lot would be, or they propose as gravel for storage of vans or trailers and some of their vans when not in use. Generally, paving of parking and circulation areas are required. However, there is a provision in our code that allows the Plan Commission to accept gravel in this case. So that's one thing I think that would be, should be addressed in a formal recommendation on behalf of the body. Otherwise, this is a fairly straightforward request due to the topography and the existing buildings. This is gonna be fairly well shielded from view. So staff is recommending approval, available for questions.
Gary?
No questions.
Joe?
Is there any concern, given that we'd have this much more paved, that there would be less area for storm runoff or anything of that nature?
Our engineer is reviewing that, and he said that this is part of a regional facility, and so the short answer is no.
Okay. That's all.
Brian?
Don't mind stormwater, but if it works for the region, then
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Brian?
Fine with the gravel too.
Yeah, mine was the same, because of assuming that at some time when the originally was approved, there was a certain amount of green space, and now we're taking that up, but fair enough, I'll accept that as.
Chris?
Will they need to change anything as far as handicap accessible spots that they have now? They have to, would one of these have to be that, or would they have to change something with?
No, they
The
have,
parking layout?
yeah, they'll have, so what, I don't know if it's not, I don't know how readily it's seen on the image. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit if you bear with me. So currently, it's too hard to see.
It's like
There's-
page 156, it might be visible on a drawing.
Go to the other tab.
Oh, different. Here it is.
That's the packet tab.
Yep. Okay. So I think due to there is an accessible stall out in front. Due to the number of stalls, I don't think they need any more. They're not adding any to the building to require increase in parking demand per se, but the number of stalls would not trigger the need for another accessible stall.
Okay.
So just to clarify though, the shaded area around the building is gonna be proposed as gravel?
That's landscaped area.
Oh, that's just gonna stay landscape?
That's landscape.
Oh, just the piece off the parking
Just,
cells?
right, so the west, yeah, let me zoom
Okay,
over here.
gotcha.
Just
So
this
that's gonna be
graded
gravel
area,
there.
that's the new area, and then this little area to the north of it is the gravel.
Okay.
What they're proposing is gravel.
Okay. Did we receive any other feedback from any other surrounding businesses or anything? No, all good? Okay, I'll, make the motion to approve the First Drywall Inc. site plan, subject to all outstanding issues being addressed to the satisfaction of the village engineer.
Second.
I'm gonna give it to Brian. Only because Joe got to make a mention earlier, so I think that's fair, so, and it was close.
That's good.
Any other comments? Call the question, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, discuss and take action on site plan for a 283 square foot addition to Quick Trip 208 East Main Street. Also an item for final action by us.
All right, this is a fairly straightforward request. Quick Trip is putting a slight addition onto the west end of their building for increased cooler space. They have some cooler and freezer space in the interior, so what you're seeing on the screen right now is this little yellow area is the existing freezer and cooler space. The area in red would be added, and then what is now the freezer and cooler space would be expanded for food prep for additional to-go items. Neither of these spaces would be accessible by the public, so it's really just to address that slight change. But the one suggestion that staff has regarding the building has to do with the architecture. So there is what they're calling a white coping material along the top course of the addition area in terms of making that more compatible with the existing facility. Staff is recommending that instead of that white coping material, a brick soldier course, similar to what is shown on the front of the facade, be added along here to make that more seamlessly integrate into the design. So with that, staff is recommending approval.
Did, does Quick Trip know you made that request of them,
Yes.
this? And what was their response?
I haven't heard anything back.
Okay.
I'm assuming again, this falls within the originally, or setbacks or original
Yep.
buildable area?
Correct.
And what about like their, I can't really tell from here, what are they doing from a roofing perspective?
It's a
Flat?
a flat roof.
Just a
A
flat?
flat roof, that's, and the wings of that, what would be brick would rise up again to meet about the soffit. So part of that area may be visible as you're heading eastbound on Main Street in between the buildings, but certainly
Yeah.
not as you're heading westbound.
Okay.
Jerry?
I think it was a good catch by staff on that soldier course. I think that'll really help the appearance there, so otherwise, no questions.
Joe?
There's some sort of water retention space in there. How is that likely impacted?
So again, on the screen, that's this area west of the building. This is stormwater. The addition will encroach into that. Our engineer is waiting on calcs from the developer or the applicant to make sure that that will in fact work. So that's a condition of approval that would be subject to the village engineer.
No
Chris?
questions?
Brian?
no, I think those couple of comments, otherwise good.
Do we have a rendition of what it's actually gonna look like, or no? From the outside?
It's gonna look, yeah, I think that was in the packet.
I haven't found a picture of it.
Maybe it was just in black and white.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
think it's
it's
like a
just a
pretty
black-
picture, it's like an architectural elevation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have a real look at what it's.
No.
I'm just, I know what you're saying, it's not accessible to the public, is it visual to the public? It's gonna look,
So this is set back fairly far from Main Street. They'll be taking out some of the landscaping, however, again, as noted in the staff report, hopefully that landscaping will be replaced to the extent possible to help further screen that.
I'm thinking that's a drive-in from the other side.
On the south side, you mean?
People are gonna be driving by this
Oh, correct.
on the west
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So I was just curious what it looked like, that's all. But we don't have a good rendition on it. 'Cause that's a fairly busy drive through there.
Well, let's see, it will, oh, sorry.
But that said, we're not gonna get a picture now, so.
Okay, okay.
So we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Quick Trip site plan subject to all outstanding issues being addressed by to the satisfaction of the Community Development Director and Village Engineer.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I'm only gonna comment, the reason I'm asking that is we hold a lot of buildings to account to how they're gonna look and be viewed in the public, and I'm a little concerned that we didn't have that here tonight, just to look at. So,
I can back that up and also say, the only thing that gives me any comfort is knowing what the rest of the building looks like, and we're making the assumption that we're going to continue that same look and feel.
And can I add?
sure,
That's where I get concerned, like without the, like some sort of roof profile there, it's completely obvious that that's an add-on, even if it does look like it's the same part of the or same building makeup, so. Not that I wanna prohibit them from being able to grow there, but,
no, that's not the intent at all, I don't see what it's gonna look like.
you know.
It's hard for me to visualize it, so. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, we have 2, 4, 5, 5 more. Next, we have our, thank you, Waunakee JPC agenda.
Tomorrow evening at Joint Plan Commission, the only thing that is scheduled will be the Chiron Tierney request for the tasting room SIP.
Our joint plan members, do we have any questions? All good?
No questions.
All right, then we have one more.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Brian Wallace,
Second.
second by Brian Melish. Thanks, everybody. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And I feel really bad for those gentlemen that had to drive from Iowa.